What's up, guys? Today we're going to see who wins the 90s handheld console wars. Is it going to be the Nintendo Game Boy or the Sega Game Gear? And I think my answer may surprise you. Stay tuned. Now, if you were a 90s kid, you pretty much had two choices for handheld gaming: the Game Boy or the Game Gear. Fortunately, I had both growing up, but after you watch this video, I think you'll see there's a clear winner. And to be clear, the review is actually going to be based on actual gameplay on the portable systems themselves. That means no Super Game Boy, no flashback systems, no emulators, nothing like that. It's been a while since I played these, so let's see how they hold up. So a little history on the Game Boy here. The Game Boy was first released in North America on July 31st, 1989, and the original price was $89.95. When you adjust for inflation, that's about $185 today. Nintendo sold 118 million units of these worldwide. Alright guys, here's my Game Boy that I got back in 1989. The unit still looks great today. As you can see here, we got the D-pad, the A and B buttons, the select start buttons, and the speaker in the bottom right hand corner. On the bottom you have the headphone jack. On the left hand side you have the contrast control dial, as well as the port for the AC adapter if you have one. On the right hand side of the Game Boy you have the volume control dial and the extender cable port. On the back you have the battery storage area where you use 4 AA batteries, and at the top you have the cartridge slot, which you can easily pop a game in and out and turn the switch on the top to start the Game Boy. Now, we all know one of the big downfalls of the Game Boy was its dot matrix LCD screen. Alright guys, let's get into some Game Boy games. Gonna try to show you one major flaw in the Game Boy here that I never really liked. We'll just have on regular lights here in the house, and if you turn the Game Boy on, you can't see a thing. Game Boy was always almost impossible to play unless you were near a lamp or out in broad daylight. I mean, look at this, you can't tell anything. Alright, let's get some lights on. Oh, that's better. Yeah, so we got Super Mario Land here first, which was kind of the flagship game of the Game Boy. I really enjoyed this game at the time. It was really cool to have Mario on the go on a real Nintendo-based console. So this game is fun, and I know a lot of people love it, and I love it too, but you gotta admit, the graphics are pretty lacking here, and just having the different colors of green as opposed to all the colorful things you usually associate with the Mario game, it is a little disappointing. But overall, Super Mario Land is a classic, and I'll continue to play it. Alright, next up is one of my favorites on the Game Boy, WWF Superstars. Everyone knows the late 80s and early 90s wrestling was huge, and this was actually a great wrestling game on a portable device. I mean, the music on this game is great, the likeness of the characters is actually very good for an 8-bit system on such a small screen, and the intro music for each wrestler was awesome. I love the commentary before each match, and the overall mechanics of the wrestling is pretty decent. Definitely a classic Game Boy game. Alright, I have to play this next one just because it came with every Game Boy, and that's Tetris. If you've watched any of our other videos, you'll know I'm not a Tetris fan at all. I actually hate the game. This came with every Game Boy game, and basically all these millions of people that had a Game Boy have at least played Tetris. So the music is actually pretty good on Tetris, and the gameplay, oh gosh, I can't do this. Nope, I'll let you see it for a second. No, I cannot play Tetris. I'm sorry, guys. Alright, another one of my favorites, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Fall of the Foot Clan. This was the first Ninja Turtles game on the Game Boy, and I think it showed a lot of the good capabilities and qualities of the system. You could actually select any of the 4 Ninja Turtles to play with, which I thought was a pretty good idea at the time. I always like to start off with Donatello. It seemed like he always had the best advantage for me. I mean, overall, the graphics of this looks pretty good. The enemies are pretty accurate to the storyline, and this was an overall fun game. They got pretty good boss battles, the music's pretty good, so really no complaints here. I always enjoyed this one. And the cutscenes were pretty good given the limited color palette. At least it is green, so it is turtles, so that makes it a little easier. Alright, so Castlevania the Adventure for the Game Boy. I think the look of this cartridge is pretty good, but the overall gameplay here is kind of disappointing. It's always kind of sluggish, and I just could never get into it compared to other Castlevania games, but I mean, I guess it was a good attempt, and it's always hard to give Konami a hard time for anything, because they make such great stuff. But again, I think just the limited color palette and how sluggish the game is just really never set well with me to sit down and play the whole game. Now I would show you some more games here, but sadly there's a lot of games that I can't find. I don't know if they were stolen or misplaced or whatever, and like I said, I wanted to stay true to just playing the games for you physically on the Game Boy, but I mean, I would have liked to play some of my old favorites like Revenge of the Gator Pinball, Motocross Maniacs, and The Amazing Spider-Man. Alright guys, let's talk about the Game Gear. The Sega Game Gear was released in North America in April 1991, and the original price was $149.99, which when you adjust for inflation is $277 today. And Sega sold 10.6 million of these units worldwide. So let's take a look at my Game Gear here. Pardon all the scratches on the screen, I don't know what really happened there. Alright, you can see here that the Game Gear is more a landscape orientation compared to the Game Boy. You have the D-pad on the left, you have the 1 and 2 buttons, the start button, and the speaker in the bottom left-hand corner. On the top left, you have the volume control dial, the headphone jack, and an extender cable cord to connect to other Game Gears. On the top right-hand side, you have the AC adapter port and the on-off switch, and you have a brightness control dial on the right-hand side of the Game Gear. On the back, you see the main cartridge slot, which you can easily pop in cartridges similar to the Game Boy. And you have 2 battery compartments, 1 on each side, each holds 3, so a total of 6 AA batteries. And the Game Gear does drain the batteries. Most of the time, about 2 to 3 hours is all you're going to get unless you have a power adapter. Overall, the unit looks great and it feels good in your hands. But the best part about the Game Gear is that it actually has a backlit colored screen. Alright, let's play some Game Gear games. We'll start out with Sonic the Hedgehog, the original classic. Alright, so I've been playing the Game Boy and had to have the light on. I forgot, sometimes if you have too much light for the Game Gear, it actually gives you trouble. As you can see here, when I first turn the screen on, actually the glare is so much you can't even see it, so we'll turn the lights off and play some more of the Game Gear. Alright, now that looks much better. Yeah, just look at the difference here with it. First of all, it's in color and it's backlit. I mean, the screen quality isn't as good as I remembered, but I mean, today I'm playing on stuff with Retina display and all this super HD quality, so of course this isn't going to look as good, but I mean, this looks pretty great for early 90s. Alright, so just compare this. Look at how good the color quality is, and the sound is great for this original Sonic game, and this was basically the flagship game for the Game Gear. I mean, compare this to Super Mario Land. I mean, it's kind of a no comparison. Alright, now let's get to one of my favorite games on the Game Gear, NBA Jam. I mean, this game looks great, the sound quality is awesome, and I was surprised how well they did with the character likenesses on the select screen. Overall gameplay is a little sluggish and laggy at times, but for the most part, you get all the elements of NBA Jam that you love, like the big high-flying dunks and the on-fire shots. I mean, it's really awesome. A lot of good memories here. Alright, next up is one of my other favorite games, World Series Baseball. Now, I think we'll all admit that Sega did a lot of sports games a lot better than Nintendo did. World Series Baseball was great because it was officially licensed by the MLB, had great music and great current rosters, fun gameplay and great controls. Overall, awesome game. The next game we're going to talk about here is Strider Returns. Now, the original Strider game on the arcade was awesome, and I really can't believe how close to the actual arcade action this game was. I mean, the Strider blade attack looks great, and you can climb and everything just like on the regular Strider. I mean, this game is way underrated in my opinion. You didn't really hear much about it, at least I didn't, but I love this game. You should definitely pick one up and check it out. Now we're going to play Columns, which is basically the Sega version of Tetris. I really like the music on Columns and the fact that it was multicolored, and I really enjoyed the music compared to Tetris. I could definitely sit down and play this game more than Tetris. I don't know what it was about Tetris, but man, I could just not get into that game. I guess I just like shiny things. Alright, another one of my favorites growing up, Batman Returns for the Game Gear. This game was awesome. It has great cutscenes. You can actually change different parts of your weapons from long, middle, or short range. You have special attacks. You get to use a grappling hook. The boss fights are fun. This game's a winner all the way around. Alright guys, that's it for the gameplay. Let's see who wins. The clear winner for me is the Sega Game Gear. I still love the look of the console. It feels more comfortable to hold. And most of all, it's in color and has a backlit screen. I know everyone gives the Virtual Boy a hard time for being all red, but I mean, the Game Boy was all green, hello? Now I agree, being able to play the Game Boy games on the Super Game Boy make for a much better experience, but as for the true original handheld hardware, the Game Boy was just frustrating since the colors were so bad. and you had to have ideal lighting conditions to be able to play, and the Game Gear was pretty much great in any situation. Yeah, the battery life for the Game Gear is worse, but for the most part I played the Game Gear in the car, and the official Sega cigarette lighter power adapter always worked perfectly. I know it may surprise people that I picked the Game Gear, and I'm sure some people will be upset, but if you really sit down and think about it, the Game Gear was just better. I only wish Sega was a little better with their marketing and maybe have produced some more games. Let me know in the comments which is your favorite and whether you think I'm right or you think I'm nuts. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up, and if this is your first time here at our channel and love gaming from all generations like we do, then hit that subscribe button and click that bell for notifications. Till next time guys, G3 out.